There he is. Marquel, kind enough to join us. How are you, my friend? Are you still floating in the air? I don't even know. What dimension are you on right now after what happened on Saturday?
Man, I know there's cloud nine, but if there's anything above that, that's what we're all on right now. It's surreal, Ariel. For sure. It's been a
Yes.
long time coming.
Well, I'm excited to talk to you about it. By the way, how many times have you watched the fight?
I haven't rewatched it yet.
Really?
Yeah. Not yet. I just been enjoying this time back home with the fam and everything like that. But I think this weekend I'm going to sit down and just have my time, have some cookies, and watch the fight over again.
Okay.
But it's in my mind.
Yeah, I can imagine. Before we get to Saturday, I know you guys were out there for, a couple of weeks, right? At least. But
3 weeks.
3 weeks, yeah. But it really all started ramping up, like obviously a week out. And as you're in the midst, you're not just a witness to it all. You're not just a bystander. Like you're there with your guy, and it's like every famous fighter on the planet, all these famous acts, all this, this pomp and circumstance. Like as you're witnessing all of this come together, and it's looking like one of the most surreal events of our lifetime as far as sports are concerned, and everything they have planned. Like, what was last week like for you? Forget about Saturday, just like the whole buildup, dealing with all of that. Could you even possibly put into words? We're watching it. We're seeing the clips. We're seeing what was it like being in the eye of that storm?
Yeah, being in the middle of it all, it was we were all kind of like taken aback by the sheer like magnitude of, like, if you go around just the arena. We took a tour of the arena, and one of the gentlemen from the Saudi team was telling me that they built that arena in 3 months, right? So that's when like people don't understand the amount of work that went on. I mean, 24 hours a day construction going into the event. We got a tour of where the main event fight was going to be, and that's where it really set in, because it's like, I think it was like 19,000 seats or something like that. You saw the stage. They walked us through how the walkout was going to be, because we had planned on all of that. And that's when it just kind of set in, because we're used to the UFC shows being the biggest and the best, right? And this, I mean, it trumped it by a million times, and that's where it was just like, I'm just so happy for our brother Francis, because that's what he deserved. One of the gentlemen from interviewed him and said, "Hey, your life story deserves this," and that's what it felt like. His life story deserved that level of fight and promotion, I should say.
Speaking of promotion, when you're fighting for a promotion like the UFC or even Bellator, PFL, like you're just kind of there, you go through the motions, but you're really just focused on yourself. With you guys having more of a stake in all of this, gimmick promotions, and Francis, you're not there represent. That brings a level of stress and planning and all kinds of stuff. And I know there were other people involved, but it's like I've talked to some, without naming names necessarily, like I've talked to fighters and their management who have left the UFC, and it's like, it's a different beast when you're not part of the machine. Now you got to have to do it on your own. What was that like for you?
It was so fucking exhausting. Sorry.
Yeah.
It was exhausting. I mean, because, and that's where I have to give UFC a lot of credit, right? They're a well-oiled machine. And mind you, this is all of our first time being away from the UFC machine, right? But at the same time, it's like, I didn't know how much goes into it, right? You're talking about travel, hotel rooms, right? Accommodations. The scheduling alone is always on the fly. It's not just like, hey, we wake up and then everything is good. It's like, my phone is going off the hook with making sure that, not only Francis is set, but the rest of the card is set, right? From drug testing to everything. So it's a lot that goes into it. And so my hat's off to obviously like His Excellency and his team, because like they really don't sleep at all to pull off this kind of event. So it was just surreal. And to your point earlier, like having all the champions there, obviously Mike Tyson, but Roberto Duran and Oscar De La Hoya. Like I grew up watching these guys, and they're here to see Francis fight. It's nothing that will ever be duplicated again. And it was just like very, very humbling, and I'm just full of gratitude for being a part of that historic event.
The whole thing is transpiring, it's unfolding, and some people thought he'd lose in a round. Some people thought he'd get carried, he'd embarrass himself. As this thing is starting to play out, like I thought Tyson won the first, I thought Francis won the second. Obviously, he drops him in the third, and now from that point forward, it's like holy shit, this is winnable. He might do this. What the hell are you thinking as you're watching all of this unfold?
Man, so the team knows like I'm the guy that's like praying in the corner. So I'm usually in his corner, right? But I was just cage side for this fight.
Ringside,
So it's
ringside.
a little ringside,
Yes.
ringside. Sorry, yeah.
Old habits.
Yeah, old habits, right? And the first round, right, I was just trying to see like what the pace of the fight was going to be, right? Obviously, Tyson got off some good jabs, right? And then the second round, I saw Francis kind of settle in, and I saw like the coaching, like, and the moment kind of not overwhelm him. And then of course in the third round when he dropped him, I mean, I felt that if Francis connected, he would drop him like no problem, and he did. And it was off of like his back foot. I have to rewatch the fight, but he didn't put his full power into it. Like I said, I think on the last interview I did with you, I was like, that's what's going to happen because Francis's power is just next level. So just seeing him in that moment be calm, right? It reminded me of when he fought Stipe the second time. He was calm. I can tell that he wasn't like, overwhelmed by the mystique of Tyson Fury, and he was just fighting his game.
How did you score it?
I scored it. I had Francis winning by 2 rounds.
Okay. When it went the distance, did you think he would get the nod, or did you think that boxing would come into play?
I got to be honest. Like, something told me that they weren't going to give him the decision, even from the beginning of negotiations when we understood that the British Boxing Board of Control was involved. And listen, like, I'm not trying to just crush them, but at the same time, it was very much home field advantage for Tyson Fury, and we knew that from the jump. So when you're listening for the decision to be read, you're hoping that Francis didn't get robbed, because I felt even visibly, he did enough to win the fight, right? He dropped arguably the greatest heavyweight of all time, right, in his prime, right, at his first boxing fight. So yeah, I had that hope, but when I heard the crazy scorecard of, what was it, 96-93 by that judge, that's when it kind of set in like, holy shit, they're gonna steal it from our boy, which they did. But at the end of the day, I think the world knows, the people know that Francis won that fight, right? And most importantly, he won the respect of the entire globe.
So it's interesting. I mean, obviously the win would be perfect, but can you like walk away with the moral victory? Like, do you feel like this is the closest thing to a victory?
Yeah, you have that love-hate relationship with like the moral victory, but yeah. I'll say that it is a victory in a lot of ways. Obviously not on the official scorecards, but it's a victory in so many ways of that Francis showed who he is and what he's capable of, right? I think he defeated all of the doubters and the naysayers, right? Media, fans, other fighters, right? So there's a lot to be proud of. And I'm just so incredibly proud of Francis and the way he handled himself, right? That's not easy. People don't understand, like, yes, he's the lineal MMA heavyweight champion, but coming into an entirely new sport with all of that pressure on your back with your family there for the first time, like, he was nothing but a true champion from day one. And I'm just glad that people see what we've all seen for the last few years. So couldn't be more proud of him.
That was the first time that his family was there?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. His mom?
Yeah.
Wow.
Remember, I mean, it's incredibly difficult to get a visa out of Cameroon. So a lot of them, it was their first time ever out of Cameroon.
Wow.
Right. So that was like so emotional. The day of the fight, we had like a Francis kind of send off, and it was his mom and his brothers and sisters, right? His entire family was there. And, a lot of us almost got just choked up just seeing that, because you know, they're there getting the royal treatment in Saudi Arabia, seeing Francis, on the biggest stage ever, right? And yeah, we were never able to make it happen before. And, again, can't say enough great things about Saudi and the hospitality that His Excellency put on, because he made that possible for his family to be there.
Wow, that is incredible. I was listening to a boxing podcast afterwards, and they were like, "Oh, Ariel's out there, and he's like, taking this victory lap tour because Francis beat boxing and all that stuff." And I texted the host. I was like, I hope you guys recognize, and I want to get your assessment on this. This to me wasn't Francis versus boxing. This was really Francis versus MMA. It was Francis versus the establishment. It was Francis versus everyone in this community that he resides in, and that I, for a good portion of it, they were all doubting him and almost like wishing harm on him. So do you agree with this as well? I feel like boxing has accepted Francis. It was everyone else that was shitting on him that I feel like. What do you make of that?
Yeah, no, you're 100% correct. Like, that was my assessment of it. It was just like the shock was like Francis was the first and maybe the only to get out of the UFC contract, right? Fighters should rally behind him and say, yes, that's great. Fans should rally behind him and say, yes, that's great. I was trying to think about when Conor fought Floyd. I felt like the MMA community was behind Conor. But it was completely the opposite. It felt like, to your point, like, people were just saying that he fumbled the bag and there's no chance in hell. It sucked, you know what I mean, to be honest, right? To not feel like the community that he's put so much work in is behind him. But at the same time, one of the guys that was interviewing us, he's been doubted all his entire life. So it didn't affect Francis. I think the team just kind of like noticed it, but hopefully that will change going into the next fight, because Francis, the boxing community is now recognizing him, and hopefully, I think the outcome of the fight only helped MMA.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, 100%. Crazy to me that people were doubting him, rooting against him. I think the difference might have been the UFC was aligned with the Conor fight in 2017, so it was safe to cheer him on. Here, it was a different. I can't really wrap my head around it, but that's my only theory. But let us talk about the next fight, because we spoke to a few people on Monday. Turkey popped on unannounced. That was wild. We had Don Davis pop on. Eddie Hearn has had his say. Everyone has had their say, not only on this show, but all kinds of shows. But you're the man on the front lines. And I was told from Turkey himself that there's an offer on the table and he's going to consider. So what is Francis going to do? Tell us. Break the news right here, Marquel. What is the news? What is he doing in 2024?
Era, we love you, but I definitely won't disclose what's next. What I will say is that, rightfully so, Francis controls his own destiny. Right. He gets to do whatever he wants. He has an amazing business partner in Turkey Al Shay and the kingdom behind him and supporting him 100%. So right now it's just a function of him being back home with his family, relaxing, right, getting some much deserved R&R, and then I'm sure there will be some announcements coming out soon. But my job in this whole thing for these past few years is just to try to do my best, and as a team, our best, to support him, to get him to where he wanted to be from day one. And I feel like he's there, right? But I can kind of take a step back, because there's not much more that you can ask of a man, and Francis, like he's done it all. He's earned his right to say, I want to fight this person on this date, right? And this is how, right? No one controls his destiny, right? So I'm just happy for him, man. Francis is his own boss, right? Like he's always been, and I'm just incredibly proud to just be a part of the ride, part of his family.
When do you think we see him again?
I think we see him again Q1.
Okay.
Of year, whether that's with his partners in PFL, right, or a hybrid of some sort. I think all options are on the table, and it's going to be exciting of who wants to really fight him now.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not so much Francis chasing
Oh yeah.
anymore, which is a good situation to be in.
Yes, a lot of people are chasing him, which is incredible to see just a few months after they were mocking him. I respect and understand the fact that you can't tell us what he'll do. Could you
Yeah.
tell us that has a decision been made yet? Is there an answer to this question?
I would say the decision is probably 90% made. It's not
Wow.
100%.
Wow, this is exciting. Can I ask what discipline is it? Is it MMA, boxing? Is it mixed? What could you tell us
No,
about?
no, no, no,
What
no,
is
no, no, no.
no is what? No means you can't tell us that?
Oh, I can't tell you that.
Okay.
I can't
Is it
tell you.
something big?
What would you like to see?
That's a great question. Okay, I'll answer it. Like the Francis boxing journey now is extremely fascinating, right? Like we've seen the MMA journey. I don't think that there's
Right.
anyone who's available to him in MMA, honestly, other than John Jones, that I'm really like foaming at the mouth to see him against. And we know that John Jones isn't going to happen for two reasons: A, UFC; B, he's out for a year.
Are you foaming at the mouth for that?
I would love to see it just because it's been like 3-4 years. But it's
Yeah.
like there's a reason why I'm not even thinking about it because A, who he fights for, but
Right.
also the dude is out. Like he's just had surgery,
Yeah.
so there's no point. And I certainly don't want Francis to waste a year sitting on the sidelines now that his stock is so high. So there's two things. Boxing, I would love to see him either in a rematch against Tyson, against Anthony Joshua, or Deontay Wilder. That's it. Like anyone who's trying to tell me, he needs to go fight Derek Chisora or some low-level boxer, like you can kick rocks. Or this
No chance.
mixed rules idea against Deontay in PFL interests me because I think Deontay is the only crazy guy out there enough to go over to MMA or whatever this rule set is. And that's kind of interesting as well. So those are the two things. There's a part of me that really is just fascinated by this boxing journey and would just kind of like to see
Right.
him in there as well. Like I was trying to think of this. Francis versus Deontay in this mixed rules thing or in boxing? What interests me more? I kind of think, and I hope the PFL doesn't get mad at me for saying this, I kind of think in boxing interests me more, Because like it's just so fascinating to see him go in there and shut everyone up continuously. If he beats Deontay in the mixed rules thing, people will be like, oh, well, that's his, skill set. He can't, you know what I mean?
But Francis went into another skill set
Sure.
and did great. So it's almost, you can make the argument that the boxing community should rally behind a boxer trying to get
yes.
into MMA.
That's why it has to be
Right.
Deontay over there. Like Francis versus PFL heavyweight X is of no interest to me at this point. We've seen that,
Right.
and it just feels like a step back. It has to be against France. It has to be against another big name. Those three that I mentioned. So
Sure.
are any of those three on the table at the moment?
Those three names?
Yeah.
Of course. Of course.
Okay.
Yeah, those are some of the options that we've been discussing for a long time.
Mhm.
I think what kind of emerged as of late was Anthony Joshua. Right? We've had the conversations with Deontay. Obviously Tyson's there, but now Joshua, can be a potential suitor. Obviously, Eddie Hearn, I have a ton of respect for him as a promoter, and he does a great job. He thinks that Anthony Joshua can
Yeah.
make light work of Francis. And it's just actually the team, we were hoping before the Tyson Fury stuff ever came to be about, we were hoping that we got a chance to fight Anthony Joshua. Like I personally think like that's easy work for Francis. Like I'm not even, and I think Anthony Joshua didn't really want that, but now, if he's smart, right, and Eddie's smart guy is like, there is something to be said for Africa and those two, right? Knowing that AJ is Nigerian, I believe, right? There you can make the case for Deontay Wilder because stylistically, power for power, everyone wants to answer those questions, and I've been saying that publicly for quite a while. Like Francis, his power is unmatched by any human being on earth, right? So you have that spectacle, and then of course, I know Francis as a competitor, as an athlete, right? He's going to want to prove to the world, like, not only did I beat him the first time, but I'll beat him again even more convincingly.
Oh yeah.
If you guys ever did. So that's the exciting part. So Francis is gonna make his choice. He's gonna make, that fuck you money that we talk about. He's in that position, man. So I'm just over the moon, happy for our brother Francis, and I see his glove on the table.
There it
Shout
is.
out,
Yes, yes, yes. Shout out to
yeah,
Gymshark. They hooked us up. Tyson didn't like that I had it on the desk last week, but I sort of forgot that it was even there when he was on, and he was a good sport about it.
yeah,
By the way, I saw an interview with Eddie. We had him on Monday, but I saw an interview with him yesterday with IFL TV, and he said that he has sent something to Francis's team. So I'm assuming that's you. Like there's some he has reached out to express his
yeah.
formal interest. So could you tell us
Yeah.
about that? Is that accurate?
Yeah. It's accurate. He reached out after the fight, congratulating Francis, and naturally, wanted to inquire about, setting up a fight. But obviously, same thing. We can have all the conversations in the world, but at the end of the day, the boss is Francis, right? Rightfully so, and he's gonna be able to make his own decision. So until Francis decides, there will be no conversations on my end or anything like that. Like I said, like he's at a position where he can do whatever he wants, when he wants, how he wants to do it.
Can I ask you asked me what would I like to see? Can I ask you what would you like to see? If Francis said, "All right, Markel, what's your vote?" What do you say?
Francis and I go back and forth all the time, and I love that about us. But me, I would probably do, knowing that Tyson is there, I would like to add to the drama. I would love to see Deontay come into MMA
Okay.
and test his hand in the mixed rules,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then that would set up that kind of narrative, or just so the world can see the difference between the two. That's why, like, I like to show it from a standpoint of, like, I don't think MMA fighters get enough credit for what they do, right, in the world of combat sports. So I'd love to see that, right? And then knowing that Tyson has his fight with Usyk, right? Afterwards, there's going to be an opportunity to do the rematch. So that's my quick take on it.
Do you think Tyson will go after the rematch, or is this going to be one of those where he's like, "Nah"?
Oh yeah.
You think so?
Oh yeah. I have too much respect for Tyson to even think that he wouldn't consider it
Okay.
as a competitor. When you're in your prime, at the top of your game, like Tyson Fury is, right? You're not going to sleep unless you yourself know that you won the fight fair and square, right? In my mind, even his team, seeing him at the airport, like his team didn't have that vibe of like we just won.
Mm.
His team had that vibe of like we got away with one,
Mm-hmm.
right? And as I would like to think that as a competitor that he would welcome that rematch, as he should, but there's nothing but mutual respect between those two. I think it was an amazing fight. I think Francis did enough to win, but obviously it didn't go our way. But next time you guys will see for sure who's the clear victor, and that's Francis Ngannou. He's the best combat sports athlete in the world. He's the best draw. He has the most power. He has the best story. You name it. Francis is number one. And he should be treated as such. And hopefully he's done enough to earn the world's respect.
People keep saying this is a movie. This is a movie. His life is a movie. Is there a Francis Ngannou movie that's going to come out at some point?
100%. Yeah, we've been talking about that for years. The hard part is like, what's the ending?
Right. Yeah,
Right.
that's right.
The story's still being told.
Right.
Right. And now that, people have awoken to who Francis Ngannou is and his story to even get to this point, right? You have a documentary, you have the book, you have the movie. He'll be the most sought after, athlete, or at least in all of combat sports for the next few years, for sure.
Incredible. It's really one of the most amazing stories that we've seen for a long time. And I know for you it was very personal as well. And the video that you posted yesterday was pretty remarkable. Wow, to have the presence of mind to record yourself as you're being laid off from your job, which in this case was the UFC in 2016. We're showing the footage here. First of all, I'm wondering, why are you wearing a cape as you're packing your stuff up, going into your car? This is 2016 Markel saying that everything's going to work out. You're wearing a cape, which takes some balls walking out of UFC HQ. Why is that?
Yeah, the whole team knew that when I came in, because everyone had this like, it was just so dark and dim like that day, because everyone knew that there was cuts that day when WME had bought us out. You just didn't know who was going to get let go. So you're hearing phones ring off the hook. You never know when your number is going to get called. So me just being, just trying to be positive, I brought in my cape. Obviously, Halloween was coming up. I had a cape and I had my UFC shirt, and I said, like, I'm gonna be the company man today. I
Uh,
brought in my Connect Four to just try to keep people's spirits up. I played music. A lot of us in the office were just trying to just kind of not be so, doom and gloom. And then yeah, my phone went off, and then I said to Britt, my coworker, love her. I said, you know what, capture this moment, because I'll always have good memories and great respect for UFC and what UFC has done for me and offered me the opportunity. So it was pretty cool to like look back on that time.
oh my God, I can't imagine. Could I ask, how many
Mhm.
X did Francis make on Saturday from what he last made in the UFC, and how many X do you think he makes for his next fight based on what he last made in the UFC? Can you give us a ballpark?
Oh, you're killing me, Ariel.
You said that FU money. I want to know what is FU money
Yeah.
for Francis?
Oh, I mean, how many X? I mean, it's uh, geez, it's up there. I would say it's in the tens of
Oh my God.
multiples, multiples upon multiples.
Uh,
Like, I saw a statement. Let me make this clear. It's like someone said, I forget who it was, that, oh, between the fights that he missed out on or whatever, like he still fumbled the bag. You're
oh,
absolutely
jeez.
incorrect. Like, I know what the pay-per-view numbers look like. I know what he would have gotten paid. There still, you add up all of that, whatever you want to say. No, Francis did not fumble the bag. He's got in just that one fight more than everything he could have made combined. And
Hmm.
then the next fight, to answer your question, like I said, he'll be able to retire. Like, he's already at a point where he can retire and be happy. But looking back on it, it was the best decision that Francis could have made. You know, it, I mean, it was brilliant. It was brilliant on him. It was brilliant on the team to have that. Just even into consideration. Not many, people would have advised Francis to take that route. Not many fighters would have taken that route. But all credit to Francis. Patience is a virtue that I've learned from him, and now he's here.
Last question. I was asked this question at the beginning of the show. Someone said, "Do you think this will lead to other fighters doing something like this?" I said I don't really think so. Because they make it very hard for you to leave, as Francis and you experienced, and it's just like so many things have to go your way, and then ultimately, like you have to cross that bridge and not be deterred and not worry that it's not going to work out and all that stuff. Do you think that this will lead to other fighters doing this and be successful in doing this, or is Francis just this incredible anomaly?
No, other fighters, yes. Other UFC fighters, probably not.
Hmm.
Right? Just because it's just a different situation that they're in. And I've always said this, and like, I'm not trying to discredit anyone, but at the same time, it's like, when you have not only fighters, but maybe their representation that uh, they're not really trying to, really lay it on the line on their client. You know what I mean? And that's where like I feel so proud just personally. Like, I can stake my reputation on I did my best for my client, irregardless of losing favor of the UFC and all of this and that. And that's where I want to continue to do, is help athletes, right, in that regard. These athletes that I see, working their ass off, having big dreams, like, I want to help them. You know what I mean? Irregardless of my favoritism or whatever. Like, it's my job. It's what do they call it? Your fiduciary duty to do so. And I hope that more fighters take a lesson from Francis, in that of course, you don't want to do it in a disrespectful manner, but a contract is a contract. Learn your contract, have a team around you that supports you, know what your value is, and fight for that. You know what I mean? And it's crazy that fighters sometimes fight the least in terms of their rights, right? Where other athletes around the world do it all the time. So I hope that a lot of fighters will follow suit. Will it be UFC fighters anytime soon? No. I think it's too jaded in a lot of ways, and I think there's a lot of misrepresented athletes out there. There's some good ones. Don't get me wrong. There's some really good, managers out there. Like that comes to mind, like Tim Simpson. That's my brother. Like, you know what I mean? One of the best in the business. So I just hope that changes in a way, and hopefully what we were able to accomplish as a team, as a group, serves as a case study for future athletes.
Delighted for you, delighted for the team, of course, delighted for Francis as well. Congratulations, Marquel. Well done, man.
Hold on 1 second. Sorry, I forgot. I gotta give a huge shout out to our brother Raiko. He was one of the instrumental pieces to put this fight together. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention his name, just because there's so many people that deserve a lot of credit. Obviously, I want to shout out the team, Eric, Dewey, John Mumba, Randy, everyone, that's family. But in terms of behind the scenes players that made this happen, I'd be remiss if I didn't shout out Raiko for being an integral part in putting this together. And obviously we're here now, and thank you, Ariel, for always supporting us, man. And even though you didn't have to, so much appreciated, brother.
Much love, man. Congrats. Looking forward to the next step. Get it done.
Yes,
get the bag. Don't fumble it, all right? Thanks,
all right,
Marquel. There he is, bye. Marquel Martin, the agent for one Francis Ngannou. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it very much. Hey, if you like this video, give us the old thumbs up. Subscribe as well. You could get many more of these videos on the channel, so please do that. We would love you forever if you did so.